Government is shutting down. That's right. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, his last-ditch plan to keep the federal government temporarily open has collapsed. Just today, just a few hours ago, as a robust fraction of hard right holdouts rejected the package, making a shutdown almost certain. McCarthy's right flank Republicans refused to support the bill despite its steep spending cuts of nearly 30% to many agencies and severe border security provisions, calling it insufficient. The White House and Democrats rejected the Republicans' approach as too extreme. The vote was 198 to 232, with 21 hard right Republicans voting to sink the package. The Democrats as a whole voted against it. The bill's complete failure a day before Saturday's deadline to fund the government leaves few options to prevent a shutdown that will furlough federal workers, keep the military working without pay, and disrupt programs and services for millions of workers. A very agitated Kevin McCarthy left the House chamber and said, "It's not the end It's not the end yet. I've got other ideas." Brother, I think it's over for you. Okay? The MAGA Republicans have had it out for Kevin McCarthy from day one, and it looks like this might be his Waterloo. It's probably over for him. This outcome puts his speakership in serious jeopardy, with no political leverage to lead the House at a critical moment that has pushed the government into crisis. Even the failed plan and extraordinary concession to immediately slash spending by 1/3 for many agencies was not enough to satisfy the hard right flank that has upturned his speakership. Republican leaders say they are going to convene behind closed doors to assess what to do next. I think Kevin McCarthy is not going to survive this. I think it's very possible that this is the end for him as the Speaker of the House. I just don't see him getting out of this. People like Matt Gaetz and them just don't like him. They've never liked him. They never wanted him. Now, what is the deadline for the government shutdown? The government will shut down at 12:01 a.m. on Sunday if lawmakers do not pass a continuing resolution or a federal budget by tomorrow. The continuing resolution, a stopgap measure that would temporarily fund the government while lawmakers work to pass a comprehensive budget, would prevent a shutdown from occurring. Now, here's a question I know a lot of you want to know. Will Social Security continue to be paid if there is a government shutdown? Social Security recipients will continue to receive their checks in event of a government shutdown, and Medicare benefits also will not be interrupted. So if you're on Social Security, if you're on Medicare, don't worry about it. But employees in the Social Security Administration are likely to be furloughed, and government food assistance benefits could see delay. So if you're on welfare, or should I say FDIC, WIC, whatever, good luck with that. Now, are state employees affected by a government shutdown? A shutdown could impact state employees whose employers depend on federal funds to operate and must shut down certain activities that the government has deemed non-necessary. Now, who are the essential workers? The essential workers, only employees for essential government services generally related to public safety, are able to continue working during a shutdown. This includes air traffic controllers, national security agents, and more. These workers will go without a paycheck for the duration of a shutdown and receive back pay for their time on the job at its conclusion. Woo, that is some hard times right there. Now, what's going to close during a government shutdown? All non-essential federal agencies are going to have to stop operations in a government shutdown, including the FDA's food inspections, and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency inspections, and disaster relief by FEMA. Programs like Head Start for preschoolers and food aid will lose funding, and come to a halt. National parks could close, and Smithsonian museums and the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., said they would stay open as long as funding allows. So in short, here's some ways how the government shutdown will affect your family. Funding for WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, would stop immediately. Food stamp benefits through SNAP would remain intact through October, but could be impacted after that. Children from low-income families would lose access to Head Start programs. College students could see delays in their student loans. The FDA would delay non-essential food safety inspections. The Occupation Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, would limit its work. And travelers could see delays with receiving passports. National parks could close. And as I said, FEMA will have no money for disaster relief. Wow. That is something. Now, how long was the last government shutdown? The last government shutdown lasted from December 22nd, 2018 to January 25th, 2019. That was 35 days under Donald Trump. It was the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. It was also the third federal shutdown to occur during the Trump administration. The first lasted 3 days in January 2018. The second lasted a few hours in February of 2018. So that's a lot of this is basically just politics. It's partisan politics. Call it what it is. It's partisan politics. The Democrats played hardball when Trump was in office, and now the Republicans are playing hardball. But more than anything, what we're seeing is a realignment politically in this country, right? We're seeing a realignment politically in America. Just saying Democrats on the left, Republicans on the right, doesn't necessarily encompass what is going on with issues any longer. You see pro-war Democrats and anti-war Republicans. You see pro-free speech Republicans and anti-free speech Democrats. You see, Democrats who are pushing for the surveillance state, to expand the surveillance state. We just talked about Dianne Feinstein, who supported the Patriot Act, and then you have right-wing Republicans who are saying, wait, we can't have a surveillance state. All the things that when I was growing up were true politically are starting to be flipped around, and it's thrown in the air, and people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene often sound closer to those of us on the left than the Democrats do. And the Democrats often sound like George W. Bush Republicans, and often hire George W. Bush Republicans. People like Nicole Wallace and David Frum and Bill Kristol have found homes on MSNBC, and you see MSNBC hiring former CIA and FBI and NSA people on their having those people on their air. That's not how it used to be. When I was growing up, as somebody on the left, it was the CIA always bad, the FBI bad, okay, war is bad, free speech good, mass surveillance bad. That's just, that's sort of how it was. And so it's becoming more complex, So really what a lot of people don't understand is that this was supposed to already have been settled, right? Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy sat down earlier this year to avert a default and a global financial crisis. And they said, very straightforward, the debt ceiling would be lifted until January of 2025. The terms were that the discretionary and military spending for the next fiscal year would be capped at $1.59 trillion, $886 billion for the war industrial complex, and $704 billion for the rest. Cuts to spending for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and veterans benefits were off limits. Now the holdouts, the sort of MAGA wing, are calling for bigger budget numbers, several $100 billion below what the agreement with what Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden already agreed upon. So this is as much of a war between the mainstream establishment Republicans like Kevin McCarthy and the new MAGA Republicans like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. These people are they essentially are calling for an upheaval, not just of the government, but of the Republican Party. They are trying to essentially rebuild and remake the Republican Party. Now, it's important to state that the debt ceiling has been raised 80 times since the 1960s. So it's not like this is something that hasn't been done. There have been 14 government shutdowns since 1981, ranging in duration from a single day to a 35-day shutdown, like I talked about a few years ago under Donald Trump. Our government actually risks hitting its $28.4 trillion borrowing limit around October 18th. So there's a lot at stake here. There is a lot at stake here. Like I said, these sort of new alignments within the Republican Party and within the left that I document every week here on this show. You know, you guys know I have no love for the mainstream of the Democratic Party, even especially as somebody on the left. Many people on the right have no love for the mainstream of the Republican Party. And so we're seeing these schisms. And that's why I say the two parties are not sufficient. These two parties are not sufficient to essentially handle this new world that we're in. And that's why I vote third party. That's why I support Brother Cornell, because it's time for a new way, new voices. The two main parties are not sufficient to give us the change that we need to save this country. Okay, folks, when I come back, I'm going to mop up and get out of here before Marion Williams comes in with the 2x4 and clears me on out of here. So I'll be right back after these.